Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Of course, we're about 60 some odd episodes in. If you've been watching along, you know that by now. And you also know that we have been reading the Phaedo. The Phaedo is fantastic and weird and interesting and challenging. And it's really laying out a lot for us. And what would we expect otherwise? Would we expect otherwise from Socrates on his last days on this planet? Of course we wouldn't. So, where are we in the text? Well, we are on this, what seems to be close to the last section, and he's describing the upper earth. And last time we reviewed the significance of this. We talked about the significance for the art of the logos, for the meaning of life, for our destiny, for our soul's journey, secondarily the implications on humanity, on the planet, and how it might be the paradigm of not just the real world, but the paradigm that we could apply to understanding the nature of our souls too. Why? If the art of the logos requires a kind of judgment or a diagnosis,
That's one for the blooper reel.
Diagnosis of souls, we need to have an understanding and ideally experience of the paradigm against which we are judging the souls. Okay, Socrates has already mentioned that it's the same art that can recognize both the ideal and the illnesses or the deviations from that. So with that in mind, all that review out of the way, let's jump in and start reading some more. Play the noise. Woo, there we go. So let's jump ahead to, we were right at the start. Was self. Phaedo, were you present with Socrates on that day where he drank the potion in prison, or did you hear it from someone else? Self. We are not hearing about the meaning of life from someone else. We are ourself puzzling, developing the art, getting confused, trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. We are doing it ourselves. That's important because we can't just trust, and we've seen why. What's the logos that he spoke prior to his death? And also, Phaedo saying, self came together by a certain destiny. If you are watching this, wherever you're watching it, and you are 60 some odd episodes in, or maybe this is your first one, and you want to jump right in the deep end. Maybe a certain destiny has brought you here. And if Socrates is on the mark, and this is indeed the meaning of life, then it may be a safe bet that some part of your destiny is learning this. Right, so, interesting to keep in mind. Let us now jump into where we were in the text. So we left off Whoa, I'm way ahead. Here we go. Right, so we are describing and drawing the pictures of the true Earth. And the last time we were reading this part here, we started to name it. So let's read ahead a little bit and get a picture of what we are to be illustrating, and then jump into the illustrations next. Right, so we've got the flowing rivers, hot and cold, water and fire, We got mud, pure and foul, and lava. They flow up and down as if they're fluctuating, maybe like a pendulum inside of the earth. In the same nature, the flux is as follows. In one of the wide expanses of the earth, so there are wide expanses, there happens to be the greatest and also pierces through the whole earth. This is Tartarus. Okay. But into this expanse, all the rivers flow together and again flow out of this. Thus, each of these rivers also become affected by the nature of the earth, through which it may flow. Since the cause of all of their flowing into and out of this place is that this flow has neither foundation nor firmament. Neither foundation or firmament. Now, highlight. So, all the rivers flow together and again flow out of this. So these rivers become affected by the nature of the earth through which it may flow, since the cause affected by the nature of the earth. Now, we've already been talking about in our last episode the functioning both and the logos flows from or follows the state of mind of the individual, which is why in meditation, before you get distracted, you can catch your fantasy playing out and catch it as an image. What is the image of myself? Likewise too, when we look at our dreams, what's the state of mind you are in the beginning of the dream? Because the flow is affected by the nature of the thing itself. Now, what are we doing? We're reading the specifics. Yes, we're getting a picture of what this real earth looks like, and there may indeed be this real earth that we can have a look at, but it might also be representative of being, because we seek to reach being. When we separate the soul, we can perceive being. The thing that allows knowing to be knowing is being. The thing that allows the world to be understandable is there is a logos in being. So maybe there is a real earth, maybe it's being, maybe it's the soul, and maybe all three. That's part of playing the game, keeping a question and a hypothesis open. Now, we've already said that there is a hyparxis of beings in Usia, and you can apply that to the soul, which may mean, hey, if we know being because we are united with it in communion with the divine self, the being that is immortal and indestructible, then it may be both. We may be seeing the true nature of soul and being. And hey, if there's a place there, maybe there's even the place, the true earth. So what do? When we have many options, we take all. We keep them with us. We carry them in our inventory, in our question sack, in our hypothesis sack. So, affected by the nature through which it may flow. Since the cause is important to us because we are philosophers and we're interested in learning. Causes are key, right? Hierarchical arrangement, tracing it back to the causes. What's the meaning? What's the cause? What's the purpose? What's our destiny? Okay, the cause for all of their flowing into and out of this place is that this flow has neither foundation or firmament. So if it's going back and forth, there isn't any foundation to it. That's interesting. So it fluctuates, swelling up and down, and air and wind about it do the same. For they also follow the flow to self. Interesting. What also follows the flow to self? We follow the flow to self, the flow of the logos. Is it there? Maybe. When it is impelled to this and to that part of the earth, and just as the breath of those who breathe, the flow of air always goes in and out. So also here, the airflow is suspended together with the liquid flow and produces some terrible and irresistible winds as it goes in and out. Thus, so airflow with the liquid flow. Thus, whenever the water withdraws to, and what we indeed call the lower region, the flow flows through those parts of the earth and fills selves up. As if the water was being pumped in. Then in turn, when it leaves behind that place, it is then impelled here, filling these regions again, and the valleys have been filled. It flows through the channels and through the earth, and in each case arrives at the regions into which each of the channels lead, creating seas and marshes and rivers and springs. Okay? So there are things that are created. It's as if the water is being pumped in. So there can be a direction of the flow, as if being pumped in. It's a metaphor, it's not actually being pumped in, but it's like that. The valleys have been filled. Okay, what can we connect this to? Well, we have the yoga in Socrates' doctrine of philosophy, a collecting together of the soul from all corners of the body. So could this be where we are directing the flow of soul? It will flow. We've been talking about the parts of the soul, the lower desires that are normally represented in the belly. He's mentioning breath. Breath work is to do with yoga. Are we moving channels through our soul or body? Maybe. Let's see if it fits. If anybody watching is familiar with yoga, different yoga practices, how closely does this relate? Is Socrates referring to yoga? Maybe. And hey, it might not just be one. He might be saying a lot of things at the same time. He has a tendency to do that. He's pretty awesome. Okay, so it arrives at the regions to which the channels lead, creating seas, marshes, rivers, and springs. Okay, so these are some terms: seas, marshes, rivers, and springs. These will have a meaning. Okay, so one of the other metaphors that we have been using to unpack the text and discover what we need for the art of the logos and our purpose here is dream analysis. So last time we talked about how we pull out key terms, look for their relationships, arrange them hierarchically in some sort of order. Hey, did you reach your goal? Did your state of mind go up or down? Your feelings go up or down? You hierarchically arrange them. This is important for an art. You hierarchically arrange your patient. Is he more sick or less sick? Is he healthy or sick today? Same sort of thing. But we also mentioned this applies to not just states of mind, but our logos, our functioning, and also the furniture. The thing about dreams is You're not just having an argument with Jody at work, who's always stealing your lunch from the break room. You're having an argument with a dragon who's dressed in the clothes that you wore when you were in your 3rd grade football team. And the dragon has the face of your auntie. In other words, all of the metaphor, all of the things, the furniture, is specifically crafted and tailored to you to unlock things. They are all metaphors that can unpack the dream or add meaning to the dream, or maybe unlock your understanding of the whole dream or a section. Equally too, we have seen this is how analogies work and how Socrates teaches us. He says, hey, there's a connection. I'm going to give you a metaphor. It's going to relate to something significant. I'll give you 2, or I'll give you 1 or 2. You do the rest. Okay? This seems to be a little bit more significant here because maybe he's talking about the real world, but maybe there's another metaphor. Thumbs up. Our soul, maybe. The paradigm, maybe. The realm of being, maybe. So we have to figure out, or maybe, hey, take all of them. What would seas and marshes, rivers and springs be in the realm of being? What would they be within the soul? Hey, maybe even a physical body. If it all has the same cause, if it follows the same paradigm, could these be chakra points? Whatever seems to be resonating with you, especially if you can see some clues pointing to this in the text, take it with you. Carry them with you. This is part of the game. But from there, plunging under the earth again, and on... Okay. And on the one hand, some flow around larger and more numerous regions, and others flow around less numerous and smaller regions, then rush back again into Tartarus. Okay, this is important. They go somewhere, some flow into big and numerous things, others into smaller and less numerous things, and then rush back. Does sound like our breath, doesn't it? Or the blood pumping around our body. But what does it have to do with the soul? Some at a point much lower than where they issued forth. Okay. But others only a little bit lower. Interesting. Lower as in what? Is this a hierarchy? Maybe it's not literal upper and lower. So many puzzles here. Now what are we doing? I'm mentioning a lot of things. Why? Why am I mentioning a lot of things? Well, we're pulling out puzzles. We're adding to the puzzles. Remember what's part of having a question? Polishing it up nice. Upgrading. Hey, it's like a weapon in your inventory. Upgrade it. Add flame to it. Add a chilling, like using like a weapon in a game or a film. If the hero has a weapon, maybe boost its poison damage, boost its flame damage, create an ice effect on it. We're doing something similar. Adding more puzzles. He's not being paid by the word. There's a significance to all of this. What do you mean flow around numerous regions and less? What does that mean? And then rush back? Okay, that's curious. But then they rush back into lower areas. Does that mean lower as in lower energy? Lower? What? Lower how? Especially if this is non-physical. What do you mean lower? Some a little bit lower. Are they lower because they lost energy? They're depleted? In the same way we might build up energy, but we have to expend it outwardly in our actions in the world, but then we come back. So if we ourselves flow into larger and numerous regions, pursue large goals or many goals, when we come back, maybe we're a bit lower in energy. But if we've sometimes less numerous in smaller regions, only a little bit lower. Is that what he means? Is it an energy thing? Build the questions and the puzzles, and then when you do have an insight, all of these things you're building will pay off. You could spark this one and this one and this one, like fireworks going off. One firework when you get the big answer, and then like if you've ever seen a firework, sometimes they're like this, and they break into pieces, and then all the little ones go, and everyone says, "Wow!" And sometimes you're there with your whole family, and all your brothers will say, "Wow! Wow! 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 Wow!" A whole family of people saying, "Wow!" So you have a big insight, and then all these little ones we've been building might spark off. So collecting questions and puzzles. Questions are better than answers, as Gabe likes to say. But all flowing, flowing below the outfall. Some of them flow straight down from where they flowed out. Right, so they all come back below. Some flowing straight down from where they flowed out. Others flow to the same side. Okay. Okay, he's giving us a lot of particulars. Why? Crazy. Not crazy, of course, it's Socrates. Significant. But we might not see it yet. And those which flow around the earth completely in a circle, either once or many times, are like snakes. He's helping us out with a metaphor. Flow around the earth completely in a circle. Once or many times. Like snakes. Winding around as far as possible. As far down as possible. Oh my goodness. Then one by one rush back again. Thus, it is possible to flow down. Is it, Socrates? Is it possible to flow down? Keep in mind his audience. Yes, he's talking, I think, primarily to us. But also his friends there. They must be looking at him like, really? You can, wow, it's possible to flow down. Well, there you go. I would never have guessed. They wouldn't have thought about this. Why would, okay. Thus it's possible to flow down from each side as far as the center, but not beyond. Okay. Let's give this a different color because why not? But not beyond the center. For that part of the river flows becomes steep from both sides. Whoa. That part of the river flows becomes steep from both sides. What does that mean? Some sort of cliff? A cliff you can't cross? You can't cross the side? Well, there's this other one that can go around many times like a snake. But then you can go down from each side, but not beyond the center, because that part of the river flow becomes steep from both sides. What does that mean? I don't know. I hope you're having some success figuring out this. Thus, there are many other large flows of all kinds, and then among these many flows happen to be 4 of note. Okay, so there are other large flows of all kinds. But then among these many flows, there happen to be 4 of note. Okay, 4 of note. The greatest, which flows on the outside, is a circle called Oceanus. Okay, so we've got a bunch of numbers. What does that mean? We can have, we can put them into our inventory. We have, let's draw a picture, which is a name that Socrates is picking up from Homer. T-A-R-U-S. And then we have four. Then we have four other large flows. Four other large flows. So, have we seen this anywhere else? Where have we seen one above four? Can you remember? Well, we've got the four virtues. Does that work? Is there one above them? The golden coin? Phronesis? What about... What else do we see? Where else do we see a four? What about... there are... This is a big one for us. 4 categories. Of the dialectic. D-D-D-A-S. Is there one above them? If there are 4 categories of the dialectic, as Socrates says, there must be a cause. If these are the causes, there must even be a cause of the causes. Could we say there is a cause of the dialectic? If so, what might the cause of the dialectic be? It might be worth figuring out. Those of you who have gone through the Parmenides, we did mention that there are 4 positive and negative categories for giving 8 hypotheses, and then there was Parmenides' own giving us 9. Could this be? If so, could we say if there are 4 and 4 and then the first giving 9, is there a 10th missing? Okay, that's a puzzle for the other text, but so far these are the thoughts that we have been developing. In fact, we should be able to zoom back and see if we can see any quadrads. Now, we haven't really done a lot of quadrads. We've done some duads. We've done some triads. Oh, we've got some... Oh, we have some sections. There's a lot. Look at all these triads. Oh my goodness. It's triad city up in here. But we did have... I remember... and we're talking about the virtues. We had... Okay, here's our triad there. That's a good one. Lover of learning. Here's one. Lover of learning. No, lover of riches, honors, or the body, and its opposite, which would be lover of learning, wisdom, and phronesis. Don't see a lot of quadrads on the board. There's one with justice. Here we go. Here's one. Wisdom, courage. Okay, that's the one we just pointed out, isn't it? Interesting. Well, maybe that's our work. Maybe we can go through these triads and see, hey, these triads, is there something binding them together in a 4? A monad above the triad or a 1 above the 4 to give us 4 in total. And if we can do that, can we hypothesize a mysterious 5th? Yeah, see this one, it's got 4 there. The monad above the triad seems to be the structure. At any rate, we have at least 2 other ones. Where are we? Here. Back home. Tartarus, 4 other flows. Phronesis, 4 other virtues. Cause of the dialectic and 4 categories of the dialectic. Don't quite know what the cause of the dialectic is, but that's okay. It can be a question. That's important. Discovering questions. Stay with it, guys. And gals. Okay, the greatest, which flows on the outside inner circle, is called Oceanus. So, flowing outside inner circle. Got Tartarus. We can do more to this oops, sorry guys. We can do more to this to fix up exactly the back and forth and stuff. But let's go into the next one. We have Acheron. Okay, so we have Acheron going one way, Oceanus going one way, the other way. We have Tartarus in the middle, and there are some flowing and some circles, and you can go down, but not crossing the center line. That was a bit confusing. We'll have to go back to that, but let's keep going and see what else we can see before we go back. Excuse me. I need some coffee. Okay, Acheron flows through the other desolate regions, and truly also flows under the earth. So there is an under. So we know something about this. There is an up and down. So that'd be under. Under the earth. Oh, unless under means inside? That would make more sense, hey? Making its way to the Acherusian wetlands. Making its way to the Acherusian wetlands. Now, is there a significance for Usia tied with Acheron? Acheron and Acherusian. Is there a significance with Usia? That's a big word for us. All right, so Acheron flows. Oh my goodness. Let's keep reading. In which the souls of the majority end up after death. Okay. So, under the earth to the Acherusian wetlands. Okay, so let's write this down. This goes under the earth to Acher, Ousian, wetlands. That's where the souls of the majority end up after death. Okay. So we have some wetlands, some trees. Okay. The majority end up after death. All right, so this is where we end up. We hang out in these marshlands. Desolate region, by the way. Significant. They remain there for a certain allotted time. Okay, the souls, that's right, that's kind of like this. The souls of the majority end up after death. They remain there for a certain allotted time, so we get a time. I suppose, based on what Socrates is saying, based on how well we have mastered the art of the logos, our education, our paideia, and also integrated it into our virtues, the nurturing, the practice, and of course, culminating in a state of phronesis. So, based on how well we succeeded at that or didn't, being longer for some and shorter for others, they are sent back again to be born as living creatures. All right, so pretty much it would be the standard. So if you haven't completed your work, mastered the art of the logos, integrated into a state of self called phronesis, based on how well you did, you're thrown back. Okay. Longer for some, shorter for others. So there's a question. Is this a good place? And the longer you stay is a kind of reward? Is it a learning place? Maybe the reward is some education or nurture to help you learn better next time. Or is it a punishment? Is the punishment just infliction of badness? I don't think it would be, because we've already seen that you can't make something better by bringing in its opposite. That was our argument for the soul being immortal. If the soul brings in the idea of life, the idea of life, the opposite of the idea of life is death. Life itself as idea can't be present with death. Of course, they're opposites. And equally so for a soul, the thing that brings it in. Just like 3 doesn't have an opposite, but it brings in odd. Odd has an opposite. So while odd runs away from even, so too 3 does. So what would be the, therefore, punishment as something that can bring upon learning doesn't make sense. However, maybe a kind of learning would feel like a punishment for those who are not prepared. Purified, developed the art of the logos, practice it with their friends, join the community here. These are some puzzles. Don't know, these are just puzzles I'm throwing out, sharing. Okay, so there's a question. Is the longer and shorter good or bad? Punishment or rewards? Or maybe it's the same, but depending on your level of interest in philosophy, those who spent their life in the worst condition of the soul, hating and reviling the logos, if there's a lot of logos being poured on you there, then it could be a punishment. Oh my God, a punishment for the unjust, but it could be the best thing for you and I. That's a possibility. So, not sure yet. So, a certain allotted time. Let me just move this around. For A. Oh, there's one here. For A. certain allotted time. Longer for some, shorter for others. Longer for some, shorter for others. And then, dun dun dun.
Come on, man.
And then sent back again to be born as living creatures. Sent back again to be born as living creatures. Socrates gave us a list. If you're a drunken fool, you'll be a donkey. If you are a tyrant, maybe a wolf or a hawk. And we have a lot of fun because we have this. You'll be a hawk with a cold, or a donkey, or a bee. If you live a pretty good life, but you have kind of the social virtues. Everyone says she's a very lovely lady who lives down the end of the street. She goes to church on Sunday and she donates to the Red Cross. She'll have a social reincarnation as a Socrates says as an ant or a bee. They're social people. They have friends. An elephant will see ants and say hello. Okay, so we've already seen something about these incarnations. So, don't know what Oceanus is doing. Don't really know what Tartarus is doing. The Acheron flows into the Acherusian wetlands where the majority of souls end up, given a lot of time, shorter for some, longer for others, and then sent back to be reborn. Nice. The third river issues forth between these. Okay, third one. It comes out at close to its source to a large region burning with much fire. It creates a comparatively larger wetland than our sea, boiling with water and mud. And from there it moves in a circle, foul and muddy. This one doesn't seem very nice. Maybe this is for the tyrants, the really bad ones. Not mixing its waters then. Okay, winding on its way until it arrives among other places and the end of the Acherusian wetlands, not mixing with its waters. So it arrives back where we were here, but does not mix with its waters. So what can we say about this one? The third one has burning with much fire. Ouchie, ouchie. Creates a comparatively larger wetland than our sea, so it's bigger than our sea. Now, that doesn't seem significant, but then it probably is, because why is he saying it? Boiling with water and mud. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. Doesn't sound too nice. Then from there, it moves in a circle, foul and muddy, winding its way until it reach. So again, we have these circular movements. Until it arrives to the end, among other places, to the end of the Araucasian wetlands, not mixing with its waters. Then, coiling many times under the earth, farther down it flows. Into Tartarus. Wow. So it goes down even lower than the Araucasian wetlands into Tartarus. This flow is named the oh my goodness. We looked this up before, didn't we? Let's figure out how to say this guy. Okay, so looking up Oceanus, it's a Greek titan god, supposedly the god of all oceans, and supposedly has a river that encircles the whole earth. So this just means ocean. Oceanus is ocean, or the god of oceans, or the principle of oceans that encircles the whole world. Acheron is untamed. Number 3 is Peri-Phlegethon. Peri-Phlegethon means burning fire.
That's one for the blooper reel.
Peri-Phlegethon means blazing fire. And the 4th is abhorrent. Stygian. And the wetland which this river creates, so they all seem to create a wetland. Except for ocean itself. Ocean just goes all the way around. Interesting. Maybe that's the one we should be aiming for. Okay. I'm going to let's have a look at this. So now that I have a jumper on, this river creates, okay, so the wetland which this river creates by flowing into this region is called Styx. Okay, so they all seem to have a wetland except for, as we were saying, the ocean itself, which is interesting. Can we find some similarities? Well, let's go back to our... What other 4s have we seen? Here we go. The 4 virtues. Let's play with this. Of those 4 virtues, do 3 of them have a wetland? Well, we've got justice, which is sort of above all of them. Could that correspond to the principle of oceans? Oceanus. Then we've got the triad of wisdom, courage, and temperance. These have wetlands. Could these be energy centers within the body? Could these be parts of the soul? Reasoning, our courage or our heart, our desires or our belly? Maybe. It is curious. I'm not quite seeing it yet, but we are being told there is a principle of ocean that goes all the way around. Of course, there's one Tartarus that goes all the way through the center. And there's a back and forth because it's completely, it's not stable, or there's no fixed firmament. So a back and forth. As you can imagine, if you had a hole straight through the earth, you drop something through, go down this way, then gravity would swing it back and forth forever if there was no atmosphere. And then of course we have Araucasian wetlands, and then the right, it creates a wetland. Okay. So this third one creates a wetland with fire, and then goes into Tartarus. Skips past this guy. Skips past the Arachosian wetlands. So we have this fire one here, fire wetlands, and then skips past the Arachosian wetlands and then goes into Tartarus. This one, people who go to Arachosian get reborn. And then the fourth one, terrible and wild region as its wetland. As the whole region has dark blue color, okay. Called Styx. We know the river Styx from mythology. We know of it, we've heard the word. Then its waters flowing into this wetland also acquire dread powers. Oh my goodness, what the hell are dread powers? Sink under the earth. Okay, what are dread powers? Alright, Dinas Dynamis means fearful powers. So, yeah, dread powers. The waters gain dread powers, fearful powers. Sink under the earth, winding down, it moves in the opposite direction to the Periphalagethon, and in every way opposite of the Arachosian wetland. And neither do its, okay, opposite direction to Periphalagethon, every way opposite from the Arachosian wetland. Neither do its waters mix with any other. But this river also flows in a circle opposite to Perigethon. Oh my goodness. Periphalagethon. Periwinklephalagethon. Periphalagethon. Also flows. Okay. So we have the principle of the ocean going all the way around, number one. We have the Arachosian River, or the Arcus River, that its wetlands that it makes is where most souls go to, and they stay for a short or long time, and then they get reborn. Okay, you have Periphalagethon with the boiling water that goes circular direction, steps by, you can yell out, "Hey guys at the Arachosian wetlands, how's your afterlife treating you? Are you ready to go back? How's your things?" And then, but you don't mix. And you wind even further down into the earth, and then you flow into Tartarus. Okay, doesn't sound great, especially with boiling water. But the other one, even worse it seems, has its wetlands Stygian, or the river Styx, from, I guess, Styx. Oh yes, Styx is from the word abhorrent. So this is a terrible one with fearful powers that moves the opposite way. So you have Periphalagethon going one way down, missing the Arachosian wetlands and going down to Tartarus. You have Styx going the other way. Doesn't mix with the other two. And is every way opposite direction to Periphalagethon, but Periphalagethon, but in every way different from Arachosian wetlands. That doesn't sound too great. And flows into Tartarus. Thus, as the poets tell us, the name of this same fourth river is Cocytus. Cocytus, the wailing. Oh my goodness. So there's a wetlands and a river. The wetlands is Arachosian and the river is Arachus. What is it? Right, the wetlands is Arakazian wetlands, and the river is called Archeon, Untamed. Oh, they're all kind of negative names, aren't they? Untamed, Burning Fire, and what Styx mean? Abhorrent. So, Archeon is a river that flows into the Arakazian wetlands. Then we have Periphalegython, which his wetlands are not named. It flows into Tartarus though. And then we have the river Styx flowing the river is called Cocytus, which is whaling, but I guess its wetlands are called Stygian or Styx. No, see, there's a river creating this region called Styx. Oh, okay, but the same fourth river is called Cocytus, so I guess it has two names? That's bizarre. Why is it called Styx? Its region is called Stygian. Right, okay. So the river flowing in is Styx, and then the river circling down is Cocytus. Very confusing. Let's draw that out. So the river flowing in is Styx. The wetlands with our trees. That's called Stygian, which means abhorrent. And then from there it circles down into Tartarus, and that's called Cocytus, which means whaling. And this goes into Tartarus. Tartarus. Interesting. And it's acquires dread powers in the wetlands. Acquires fearful powers. I'm not familiar with the word dread. We looked it up, and another word is fearful powers. Acquire fearful powers in the wetlands, and then down to Tartarus. Wailing as we go. Doesn't sound great. Therefore, such is the nature of these matters. Good. Figured it out. Hooray! Yay. No. I don't have a yay button. I just have clapping. I need more drops. But yay, we found it. We've done it. Yay. All that sorted out. Oh no, it's all still crazy. Let's see what he says. Therefore, such is the nature of these matters. Great. But when the dead arrive at the region to which each has been attended by their guiding daemon, they are first judged as to whether they live a good and pious life or not. And those who shall be seen to have lived an average life are taken to Acheron. Right, that kind of makes sense, right? The one where you stay for a short or long time and then you come back as a donkey or something. Where's that donkey sound effect? Hooray. Embarking such vehicles as for selves upon those they have... Oh my God. Embarking such vehicles as there are for selves. Crazy way of saying it. Upon these they are taken to the wetland. And if anyone did any wrongdoing, there they live, being purified of the injustice they have committed. So that sounds okay. It's not a punishment, it's a kind of purification. It might seem like punishment if you have been taught to embrace your vice and hate philosophers. Like, hey, most of the jury didn't like Socrates, even though look what he's sharing with us, the meaning of life and how to reach our highest goals and understand even death. They killed him for that crap. Oh my God. They killed him for having a daemon. We all have a daemon. How ridiculous. How ridiculous, what I was going to say, is it that they're killing him for having what we all have? That's insane. And yet, here we are. So that's interesting. They're purified of the injustice they've committed. They are justly determined to be released, and they're rewarded for their good works according to the worthiness of each one. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of rewards and punishments or rewards, but I don't know. Only because it's extrinsic. It can be a way of manipulating. The act itself should have its own reward, which could be the case here. You purify your soul, you'll be able to go into being to a greater degree. You have an art of the logos, you'll be able to recognize it more. You've purified your fears of reality. You've purified your false beliefs about yourself that say you're inadequate. So when you encounter pure beauty, you don't reject it or fear it or think I'm not good enough. So that would make sense that if you purify your false beliefs about yourself being inadequate and you develop an understanding of it, you'll probably have a better time if you experience reality or beauty itself. So you can say that's a reward. Maybe reward is the wrong word. I don't know. But that's what he's saying, so we run with it. In fact, we don't know if that's what he's saying. So let's find it for ourselves. All right, looking it up, we've got Phaerontai Timas. Phaerontai Timas. What does Phaerontai Timas mean? Well, Phaerontai means to bring or carry. And Timos is honor. Could be a reward, but it's related to Timos. Philotimos is those who love honor. The people who are motivated by the middle part of their soul. So Phaerontai kind of sounds like the word fair, but what it actually is Phaeronte. Phaeronte is the third person plural present mediopassive indicative of Pharaoh. See? What does Phaeronte mean? Easy. It's the third person plural present mediopassive indicative. My goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adjectives for that word. Third person, plural, present, mediopassive, indicative of Pharaoh, which means to fetch, brought, bring. It means to bring, bear, or carry. What do you know? So we are carried honors for their good works. So do we call that a just reward? I don't know. Carried honors. Are we, what is it, a reward? Is it honor? If you're a soul, what would the reward be? Like a flash new car? Well, you're a soul. You can just fly around. You don't need cars. And you're non-physical, so cars wouldn't make sense. At any rate, you're purified of your injustice, and you are brought along honors for the good works, according to the worthiness of each one. Whereas, those who are deemed incurable because of the enormity of their crimes, who have either committed many great sacrileges or many beyond lawless and unjust murders, or did other deeds such as these, their proper fate is to be cast into Tartarus, from which they never emerge. Now, we've seen two kinds of rivers. The oh my goodness. I gotta figure out how to say this one. Fledge. Peri, like a periwinkle, and a fledgling bird. And Ethon is the name Ethan. Ethan Hawke. So, Fledge-Ethan. A periwinkle-shaped fledgling of a bird of Ethan Hawke, who his name is a bird, Hawke. So that's how we remember that. Fledgy-Thon. That's Ethan Hawke flying by. Okay, Fledgy-Thon and Styx or Cocytus or Stygian, the wetlands, Styx flowing in, and Cocytus. How do you remember Cocytus? Someone who eats Arusa. So Cocytus and Fledgy-Thon both flow into Tartarus, so that's interesting, because he's saying here, beyond lawless and unjust murders, or other deeds such as these, many great sacrileges, okay, we all miss the mark. We're all here to learn. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. But if we continue without the reflection, without the art of the logos, and we do it many times, and they are terrible things that we do, many murders or sacrileges, and we are incurable. So we have no interest in reflection upon self with the logos for understanding. Certain kind of person. Their fate, here's our word fate again, the opposite of destiny, purify ourselves from our fate. So we could say, hey, if we don't listen to Socrates, develop the art of the logos, perhaps in this incarnation or maybe one of our future ones, we will be fated to be cast into Tartarus, from which we will never emerge. That sounds terrible. But those who have seen to have wrongfully committed curable but great crimes, such as doing some violence to their father or mother in a fit of anger, but have passed the rest of their life being repentant, or those who have engaged in killing someone in another similar manner, so fit of anger, repentant, so we have fit of anger, violence, but repentant, and maybe even killing someone in a fit of anger, but repentant. They must be carried into Tartarus first. But when a year passes, the waves push them out of there again. So he's really describing the cycles of reincarnation, which is important because if we are headed there, I hope I'm not the first one breaking the news, but you can't stay in this body forever. You have a limited amount of time. We're not really sure how long. None of us know. But as we have seen trusted and then understood while learning the art of the dialectic, the art of the logos, our soul is immortal and indestructible. Maybe we have work to do to prove it's indestructible. We can trust it is, but we want to go beyond trust. At least we know it's immortal and likely indestructible. So we're gonna get there, whether we like it or not. Just like, hey, if you're gonna play Dark Souls, you're gonna end up in that starting area of Dark Souls, the video game. So do you want to learn how to play, or are you gonna flail around and then get sad and annoyed and rage quit? You can't rage quit. You're gonna come back and forth, whether you like it or not. But fortunately for everybody watching us here, we must have done some good to come back as a human being. We're not a bee or a donkey or a wolf. These are things that he's mentioned, or a hawk. Lots of fun animal noises. We're not any of those. So we have a chance to go beyond this back and forth and maybe be born in a situation where we end up like this, or even worse, end up stuck in Tartarus forever. So we have the opportunity to be better beyond this back and forth. So hey, not only do we want to learn what happens if we die, we want to learn how do we get out of it too. How do we win the game? And if you're here watching it, you must have done something good. Because, you know, it's not news. Socrates was saying, ain't no one talking about this. He couldn't find a teacher, had to do it himself. And he's, we're on page 93. Earlier in the text, Socrates says, hey, is anybody able to give a logos of those selves that we have knowledge of? Simmias says, I wish they could, but I fear that tomorrow, after Socrates is murdered, not even one man will be left who is capable to do so in a worthy way. So there aren't a lot of people. Even in Socrates' time, there was just him, it seems. Although he did say, hey, tell Euvenos, if he's doing philosophy right, he'll want to follow me quick smart. So if you're here watching it, good for you. And as you know, there aren't teachers talking about this. I've met one in my life. I was also very fortunate. But we have this, and even that teacher was really just teaching us how to read, because it's in here. And that's what we've been doing, learning how to read, learning how to find puzzles, how to piece it together, how to learn the art, how to dianoia, love of dianoia, philodianoia. So we're going to go there anyway. So yeah, sorry if this is the first time you're hearing about the fact you're going to die. You are, but we can understand it. We can start with trust. What's the trust? Part of learning. You trust your mechanic that you're learning from if you're an apprentice. You trust your teachers if you go to medical school. We trust Socrates. He's told us, he's demonstrated why we should trust him. And he's the sort of person who says, don't stay at trust. So we know he's not a con artist. Well, got good indication he's not a con artist. Those who say, just trust me and don't go anywhere beyond that. Politicians who say, just have hope. Religious figures or other cult leaders who say, just have faith. They're conning you. Socrates says the worst conditions of the soul happen if you just stay at that level. Go to dianoia. So we can not only have trust that this is where we're going to go, and how do we rightly learn? Repeat this. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. Watch these videos, go back over it, review, reflect on it, think about it, talk about it over coffee with your friend. Cheers. Or friends, if you like. Join the Discord. Talk about it there if you like. Create works of art based on your dialectics. Mythologize them. But then from repeating, we have to go to dianoia, love of dianoia. That's what real philosophy is. Love of understanding. Structure it in the dialectic as we've been learning. Piece it together. Piece the text together like we're learning. In the text, as we have been learning with dreams last time. And then verify your understanding in direct experience. Philosophy is nothing other than the art and practice of dying and being dead. So go there, stick your head above the water, as Socrates is saying. Which is good. Hey, you're going to play Dark Souls? Read about it from other people who've been there. Talk about it. Repeat what you've been hearing from others, learning. Then understand it, piece it together, figure it out. How does it work? Why does it work? Why is it necessary and beautiful it has to be this way? And why is it irrational if it's not this way? What are the problems that follow if it ain't that way? And then finally play the game, jump in, have a look around. And this is what we're doing here. So, great, we're in very privileged, fortunate, maybe we've done a lot of good work in our previous lives as the various animals what we were. For whatever brought us here, we're here and we can do it. So good for us. Okay. After a year passes, the waves push them out of Tartarus. But those who are guilty of murder in the way of, by way of Cocytus, so there's that last river, the Wailing River, and those who have committed patricide or matricide by way of, so now we're getting some more details. Guilty of murder go by the way of Cocytus, the terrible blue lake. And those who have committed patricide or matricide, right? Patricide, killed your father. Matricide, soiled your mattress. Ha 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 ha. No. Patricide and matricide, of course, is killing your father or mother. Go by perifligethon. After they've been carried along to the Arcusian wetland. Oh, okay, so they can go back. Because we did see them we saw at least perifligethon passing the Arcusian wetland. We can give a wave on our way down to Tartarus, but we can come back up. So we swim back up, maybe. Maybe we don't have hands, so we're not doing this, but this is what it's like. This is how you swim. I'm using it as a metaphor. Okay, whatever this is for the soul. Okay, but you know what swimming is. It's this, like this with your hands, right? So we swim. Oh, I mean, we're carried along, actually. We're not swimming at all. We're carried along to the Arcusian wetland. Here, they cry out. Oh, we cried out on our way down just for fun, but now we're actually crying out those that we killed. All right, so the souls that we killed. We shortened their time where they could have been learning the Logos, so that's not great. They killed others to those which they abused. Okay, so we abused or killed. We call them. And we beseech them. Do you know how to beseech thee? Okay. Beseech. I don't know what beseech means, but I know you beseech these. You beseech thee. Beseech is to implore. Right? What does implore mean? Ask urgently. Okay. Plead or ask urgently. I beseech thee. Fancy language. Why is our translator using fancy language? I don't know. It's a fun word though. Beseech. We beseech them. I beseech thee. And they call back from the Arcusian wetlands. What the heck's beseech mean? It means I implore you. What did you do? Study English in your last life? English literature? What does implore mean? I'm asking you urgently. All right, why didn't you just say that? I don't know. I've had a rough time. I've been in Tartarus for a year. All right, what are you asking? We ask if we can step out into the wetland. Can you accept us? Can you allow us to step out into the wetland and accept us? All right. If you stop beseeching me, I'll let ye. And that's how it will go. If they persuade them, they step out and their suffering comes to an end. Oh, okay, so there was suffering in Tartarus. And of course, I guess that river was boiling and the other one was unpleasant. dreadful, fearful powers in River Cocytus from the River Styx. And the other one is boiling water and mud in Periphlegython. So we beseech, and then we allow them to step out, and Wetland accepts them. Our suffering comes to the end as we persuade them. Come on! We do this motion that we learnt in our study of the Phaedo in this podcast, and we say,
Come on, man.
say, come on, man, let me out.
Come on, man.
Like this, come on, man. I've been swimming, and now I'm saying, come on, man.
Come on, man.
And they, if they say, all right, fine, stop saying beseech and I'll let you out. Okay, deal. Now, if they do not persuade them, they are carried back to Tartarus. Oh, that doesn't sound great. Poor souls. Again, another significance of learning the art of the Logos. Because Logos is to be persuasive. To tell the truth, says Socrates, is naturally persuasive. So he wants to learn the art of the Logos for himself. But if you hit upon what's true, it will persuade in a beautiful way. Page 56. So another reason for learning the art of the Logos. If you misstep, hopefully you've been learning the art of the Logos and you can use it to persuade. Obviously, he has been persuading his friends about the immortality of the soul, about the necessity for reincarnation, about the need to not just trust these four and then the extra couple of arguments that were counter arguments to sing them their fears to sleep like the boogeyman, dissuade them of their fears of death, or the fear that the soul is destroyed and doesn't reincarnate. So those four previous arguments, and the ones against the other two that were the cultural ones brought up by Simmias and Cebes, or the religious ones. Don't just trust them. Learn the art of the Logos. Learn why they made sense. Learn what convinced you. Learn how to structure the arguments. Do them yourself. Because if you do, you might have to persuade if you misstep at some point in your incarnations. Let's hope we don't. Let's hope we can hold on to phronesis. How? By the art of the Logos. Through the Logos and through judging relative to the paradigm that we are carrying with ourselves, if we reach phronesis, we can maintain our state. That's one way of losing your goals, not maintaining them. So hopefully we can maintain it using the Logos, having fun with the Logos, playing the noblest game, not getting drawn into our physical senses and pleasures, cause our suffering and our human ills and our self-imprisonment. But if we don't, well, hopefully we've learned the art of the Logos that we can persuade them to let us back into the cycles of reincarnation so we can continue our learning. And Socrates says, you know what's naturally persuasive? The truth. So that's why I'm greedy for the Logos. Unlike the non-philosophers, non-lovers of learning, lovers of fame or riches or the body, who are really lovers of fighting, debate bros, tied to their ignorance, what do? Oh, they talk, they're interested in the Logos to persuade others. Because otherwise, what else makes them experts? Because they don't have the Logos, or nous, or the art, or phronesis. The things that, would make you an expert like Socrates, able to talk in this way. So he's not interested in persuading others, but if he hits the truth, he's going to persuade himself, and it will be naturally persuasive to others as a secondary benefit. So, another reason to learn the art of the Logos, in case we misstep. But let's do our best not to, and support each other, and encourage each other, and gently nurture each other, and gently encourage each other to reflect on ourselves, reflect on the patterns, reflect on our dreams, like a lot of our friends are doing in the chat. doing really, really well, share their thoughts, questions, puzzles, and insights in Discord with their friends, with their teachers, their family even. Worth a shot. Encourage them into this game. Say, hey, it's new. No one's talking about it, but doesn't mean it can't be done. Socrates had the same problem, but he did it. We have the text now. We can do it, thanks to Balboa. One Balboa and his family. And of course, Dr. Pierre Grimes, of course, who helped him, encouraged him, and his support network of other philosophers who he shared the game with. But we can do it. We can do it now. It's only new. 5 years or so this text has been around. You can do it, and it's fun, and it's good. And it's a kind of pleasure that goes beyond pleasure and pain. And is a kind of happiness that's lasting beyond this incarnation, and maybe a kind of pleasure and state of excellence of the soul that is itself immortal and indestructible. And also, secondarily, it's persuasive. So if things happen, you can get back on track, which is part of being human, by the way. If we're already on track, we wouldn't be here. We're all on track to our problems or fate, and we all have to get back on track to our destiny. That's the two ladders we've always been talking about. And what's the track? The art of the logos. So if they're not persuasive, they're carried back into Tartarus, and from there in turn into the other rivers. This continues without stopping sooner until they have persuaded those who they have wronged. So this continues without stopping sooner. So back and forth of our reincarnations is reflects the back and forth between Tartarus and Arcusian wetlands. Back and forth until you can master something to make you persuasive, just like the back and forth of our reincarnation till we master the art of the logos that Socrates is helping us by leaving behind and is talking to us about through time. Okay? For the self is the judgment which the judges opposes on selves. Interesting. For self is the judgment which the judges impose on self. Okay, for it. Okay. For this is the judgment that the judges impose on selves. So they're judged to go back and forth until they learn how to be persuasive and to seek the good. So that is the judgment. Now, we know from our practice that for the word self is read as it first. For it is the judgment. So they go back and forth and it continues until they've persuaded those they've wronged. For it is the judgment which the judges oppose on selves. This is the judgment. You have to do this. Now, the word self also has the two higher levels of meaning, just as this probably has at least two higher levels of meaning. Maybe 4, maybe 5. Like there might be 2, 3, or 4 or 5 dimensions in this story. Anyway, so the honorific is the judgment that the judges impose on selves, or the ultimate, the self. So this might be selves imposing judgment on selves if we are all one self. If we are in disharmony with ourselves, which was the definition of vice, then some parts of ourselves are hurting other parts of ourselves. Our desires are hurting our reasoning. Our honor is hurting our reasoning. So we want to be in harmony. Now, this might be for individual souls, but ultimately we are all one self, maybe. So we are all aspects of the one self. So this might be not necessarily individual selves, or at a higher level, the individual selves is reflecting the one self. If you are harming yourself, you need to persuade yourself to be on the right track. What is persuasive? Philosophy. It persuades and encourages. We talk about doing philosophy with others, but to yourself. The only time the dialectic has been used has been when we talked about how to treat yourself well. Okay? When we are in problems, what do? Okay, virtue is a kind of harmony, vice is a discord. Okay, tying it back in. That's what we do when we read. Tie it back into the relevant section. Okay, so sometimes we are acting in the opposite way, what we want to. So we correct, sometimes, okay, sometimes you correct harshly with the suffering that accompanies physical training and medical treatments. Sometimes she corrects more gently, and she uses threats. Okay, so harsh. Okay, let's use a different color because it's blue on blue. Can't use that one either. Let's go yellow. Okay. Oh, I gotta get in shape. Physical training. Yeah, that sucks. But it's a harsh correction to get you healthy. Medical treatments. Oh, I gotta take this medicine. Bleh. Yeah. Well, it's what happens when you, I don't know, you drink too much or whatever. You become ill or something. Sometimes more gently. If you eat that cookie, I'm gonna make you do an extra 20 minutes on the treadmill tomorrow. Sometimes you advise by having a dialectical conversation with the desires, angers, and fears, as if she were one resource talking to another. And there's an example from the Odyssey. Beating your breast saying, your heart, come on, heart, you've endured much worse than this. Courage, come on, haven't you done... When you say, I can't do well. Well, hang on, haven't you done well before? Okay, self as, so Homer understood self as being a harmony. Leading and mastering them, self according to self. There we go, is our self according to self, which is a part of the dialectic. Okay, so, equally so. Physical training and medical treatments, is that a harsh kind of correction that we're seeing in Tartarus? Is there a more gentle kind of correction? And finally, is there the ultimate, the dialectic, which is the only time it's been dropped, but it's the only way of making sense of this crazy expression, self according to self, which has been used all the way out, particular, how do we do this? What's the true practice? How do we separate from the body? And what are we doing when we're out of the body? We collect self according to self. So, why are we talking about that now? We're talking about corrections. Persuasion. What? Isn't that the second kind? The harsh punishments, is that the first kind? Therefore, the dialectic might be the best kind. So, the self, this is the it, so the particular reading of the word self, for it, this back and forth of harsh corrections, back and forth to the gym or the doctor, or Tartarus. So there's a reflection in the realm of being in our incarnations. This is the judgment that judges impose on selves. It, the word for self. Oh, honorific. The principle, maybe. Or the ultimate. Self. Is self imposing the judgment on self? Is this about gaining harmony, not just within our soul, like we talked about, as though we talk to ourselves, as though Homer beating your breast, as though you're a different agent? Come on, you can do this. Haven't you done this before, heart? You've been a good heart on other times where you needed courage. So too, persuading, hey souls, I'm a soul like you. I'm doing my best to learn the art of the logos. Let me out of let me out of harsh punishment. Or maybe it's the one self. Maybe we're all the self. And the act of harming, what he's saying, patricide or matricide, or murder, depending on which one, coitus or periphygython, phlegethon. Maybe you're really harming yourself. If you were able to look at another being and see the self, would you want to kill it? If you did, that would be a sign of your own problems within yourself. And if you couldn't see it, again, a sign of your own lack of sight. Is all of this a preparation for the self to be harmonized? I don't know. These are the kinds of higher order questions that we can unlock when we recognize the word autos, the word self. Has the particular, it, has the honorific, referring to beings, particularly apt because we're talking about the realm of being here, or at least one aspect of it, of an immortal, indestructible reality we can turn back to and fro from, and also the ultimate. Is this whole thing, the whole thing, learning the art of the logos here or there, or back and forth? Well, you wouldn't learn it there, but back and forth there until we can learn it here. Is the art of the logos an art of mastering the logos of self, according to self? On that bombshell, might be a good time to wrap up because we've got a lot of questions we've given birth to. So he's going to go on to say more about living in a pious way and given freedom. So a big cliffhanger. Okay, we've seen about, okay, if we have problems, but what if we lived in a good way? So a huge cliffhanger again. Some bomb shells about, is this whole art of the logos? Are we all self? Are we harmonizing with self? Is that the whole game? Maybe. All from a reading of the text that is there, but hasn't been accessible until the last 5 years when we have the Balboa translation, which gives us the actual Greek. Just as a lot of this we haven't been able to see. A lot of the terms are really specific. But we are getting an understanding of our nature of our incarnation, and like it or not, that's what we're doing. We aren't in this body forever. Forever. Got some time here. Socrates is saying, hey, use it to master the art of logos and come as quickly as you can to where I'm heading. Out of this cycle. But understand the cycle. And hey, maybe there's a hint in this cycle of how to step out of it. And maybe there's a hint within this that we can apply to our souls. And maybe all of it applies to the self. Good questions. With those questions, thank you so much for joining me. As always, like, subscribe, share with your friends on YouTube. Join me in the Twitch chat or on YouTube live stream now. Live streaming on both Twitch and YouTube. Free link to the text below. Join the Discord community if you like. If you have the means and you think this is worth sharing with the world, feel free to support on Patreon. And I hope to see you all with puzzles and questions and dreams in your back pocket. I hope to see you all next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Onward, fellow travelers and guides, in the ultimate true adventure, the true hero's journey.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
You're a wizard, Harry.
See you next time.